The wine glass slipped from my trembling fingers, shattering on the kitchen floor. My breath came in shallow gasps as I leaned against the counter, trying to make sense of what had just happened. His hand had brushed against mine, barely a touch, but it set my entire body on fire. My best friend's husband. How did we get here? The sound of laughter drifted in from the living room, where my husband and Lisa were oblivious to the chaos unraveling inside me. James's voice broke through my thoughts, calm and steady, but laced with something I couldn't name. "Are you okay?" he asked. I looked up, meeting his eyes, and in that moment, I knew everything was about to change. The evening had started innocently enough. Lisa and James had invited us over for dinner, as they often did. The four of us had been friends for years, but tonight, something felt different. Lisa's laughter was too loud, her hand lingering too long on Mark's shoulder as she served him wine. I tried to ignore the nagging feeling in my chest, but it only grew stronger as the night went on. James, ever the gracious host, had been attentive as always, but his eyes held a quiet intensity every time they met mine. It wasn't flirtation, not yet, but it was enough to make my heart race. As we sat around the table, Lisa leaned closer to Mark, whispering something that made him laugh. My grip on my fork tightened as jealousy and confusion churned within me. After dinner, Lisa asked Mark to help her find something in the study. They left the room together, their laughter echoing down the hall. I tried to focus on the conversation with James, but my mind kept wandering to what they could be doing. "They seem close," James said, his voice cutting through my thoughts. I looked at him sharply, searching his face for hidden meaning. "They've always been good friends," I replied, trying to sound casual, but the words felt hollow. James nodded slowly, his gaze drifting to the hallway. "Too close, maybe," he muttered, almost to himself. My stomach twisted at his words. Was I imagining things, or did he see it too? Before I could respond, Lisa and Mark returned, their smiles a little too bright, their conversation a little too forced. Lisa suggested we watch a movie, her tone light and cheerful, as if nothing was amiss. She sat beside Mark on the couch, while James and I took the armchairs across from them. The room felt stifling as the film played in the background. I couldn't focus on the screen. My attention was drawn to Lisa's hand resting lightly on Mark's arm, her laugh echoing in my ears. James leaned closer to me, his voice low. "Do you feel it too?" he asked. I turned to him, startled. "Feel what?" I whispered back. He hesitated, his eyes scanning my face. "Something's not right," he said finally. I nodded, unable to find the words to respond. At one point, Lisa stood and asked Mark to help her upstairs. My chest tightened as I watched them disappear, a wave of nausea washing over me. "Do you want to check on them?" James asked, his tone unreadable. I shook my head, unsure of what I would even say if I found them doing. "What?" I didn't even want to finish the thought. James stood abruptly and gestured toward the balcony. "Let's get some air," he said. I followed him, grateful for the escape. The cool night breeze hit my face as I stepped outside, but it did little to calm the storm inside me. James turned to face me, his expression serious. "You deserve better than this," he said quietly. The intensity in his voice made my heart race. James took a step closer, his hand brushing mine as he spoke. "You've always deserved better," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. My breath caught as he reached out, his fingers grazing my cheek. "James, stop," I said, my voice trembling. But I didn't move. I couldn't. The air between us was charged with unspoken words, unacknowledged emotions. "I see the way he looks at her," James said, his tone sharper now. "You don't deserve to be treated like this." His hand lingered on mine, and for a moment I felt myself leaning toward him. But then reality crashed down on me. "No," I said firmly, pulling back. "This isn't right." James froze, his eyes searching mine. "I'm sorry," he said softly, stepping away. The tension broke like a snapped wire, leaving us both shaken. I couldn't stand seeing you like this," he added. I nodded, my voice barely above a whisper. "I know." Lisa and Mark returned a few minutes later, acting as though nothing had happened. I excused myself, needing to leave before the weight of the evening crushed me. James walked me to the door, his expression somber. "You're stronger than this," he said quietly. His words stayed with me as I drove home in silence, Mark sitting beside me, oblivious to the turmoil inside me. The next morning, I confronted Mark. "What's going on between you and Lisa?" I demanded. He denied everything, but the hesitation in his voice told me all I needed to know. I didn't push further. I didn't need to. The truth was clear enough. This night changed everything. It forced me to confront not just my marriage, but my trust in the people closest to me. It reminded me that loyalty isn't blind, it's earned. Lisa's betrayal, Mark's silence, and James's moment of weakness all taught me the same lesson. Some lines are never meant to be crossed. As I stood in the quiet of my home, I made a promise to myself. I would never allow anyone to make me question my worth again. Strength isn't in holding on to broken things, it's in letting go. And tonight, I finally let go.